So today I wanted to go through just some month-end reporting processes and things that can actually save some time as you're pulling together month-end. Now, I know you've probably done month-end for a decade or more, and no doubt you have your strategy, but I think it's always worthwhile revisiting it and seeing if there's anything that can actually save you some time. I am such a big believer on the management accounts, particularly for people who are new or aspiring finance leaders, largely because the management accounts is the one thing that goes to the entire leadership team and the board every single month. A lot of people in that management role don't get that type of access and never have the board or the leadership team seeing their work. And so, because you do, you should really put your best foot forward. So it is definitely something worth reviewing. And I'm such a big believer in that I actually did a mini course just on the management accounts. It's called the Advanced Management Accounts. I'll leave a link below if you're interested. But basically, if you are a new or aspiring finance leader, these are the things that you should be looking at. What does a CFO actually do during month end? They don't put the management pack together, that's for sure. The financial controller does that. But there is actually a lot that the CFO does to make sure that it is an advanced version of the management accounts, and that's what that course is on. So that is a big recommendation if you want to really advance your skills here. But today I just wanted to go through what actually is going to save you some time. Just 10 quick little tips. Some of these you may already do, maybe one or two of them you don't, and you might actually be able to save some time during your month-end process, or you and your team may be able to save some time. If you haven't seen me before, my name's Alysha Randall. I'm a fractional CFO for Fast Growth Consulting, and I also train new and aspiring CFOs for startups and scale-ups. I also wrote a book on that topic called Financial Leadership Fundamentals: How to Become a CFO in a Startup or Scale Up. So if that sounds interesting to you, then please do click on the subscribe button below. I post a video every single Thursday. So as I mentioned, I wanted to go through 10 tips that might be useful for you to basically make sure that your monthly process is really slick. So the first one that I wanted to say is stop starting from scratch. So the big thing that we often have to implement when we start with a new client, particularly if there's just a finance manager and that's it, is it's very common that there isn't a month-end checklist. It's not unusual. A lot of people think it's in their heads, and 90% of it probably is in your head. But it actually can waste a lot of time scrolling through old checklists, Slack messages, emails, trying to remember the order of tasks, maybe missing something. And this potentially alone could waste about half a day. So instead, you should build a month-end checklist. It should have who does it, when should it be done, the deadlines, very importantly, the dependencies. It should really cover the pre-month end work, day one tasks, day two tasks, sign off, all those kinds of things. Communication, when an email should be sent out, reminders should be sent out. Communication is actually a big part of month end, and so that should be very much built into the schedule. It also means that if you're having to do the communication, if you create a template, create a deadline, create a who should do what, you'll be able to delegate it a lot easier. So start with the last 3 months, document every step that you actually did, clean up the order, assign the responsibilities, store it in one place, and use it every single month. Number 2 is to do the heavy lifting before month end. If you wait until the first of the month to start everything, I can tell you right now it's going to be slow and stressful compared to if you don't. There is actually a lot of tasks that can be done before the close of the month. One of the big ones is communication, reminders, asking people for information, telling them when you actually want them. Payroll can be done, potentially revenue cutoffs, fixed cost reconciliations, even depreciation, if you're not the type of company that does a lot of CapEx. These, if you do this before month end and include it in the above timetable, then you will get a lot done before month end close. So the aim is for month end day one to be about confirming numbers and not discovering them. So schedule some specific pre-close tasks in the week before month end, like revenue review on the 27th, payrolls, journals and check done on the 28th, maybe even accrual assumptions on the 29th. Number three is to really tighten your bookkeeping standards. So slow month ends are usually down to messy bookkeeping. So if your data or base data is inconsistent, you spend a lot of time cleaning it up. This can be 1 to 3 days of lost time due to fixing things. It's one of the biggest things that we have to tackle when we start with a new client and we've realized that their numbers are super messy and they haven't passed a financial due diligence, is because the bookkeeping's a bit slack. So we then spend a lot of time either training the bookkeeper to get them up to standard. It's very common that they don't have enough oversight, enough guidance, particularly if they haven't had it before and they're just kind of guessing where things go. So ideally, that's step one. Or step two, unfortunately, sometimes is to find someone who can. So really define clear bookkeeping rules, coding conventions, cutoff rules, documentation requirements, which is much easier now because you just record a video when you're showing someone how to do something and then get AI to turn that into process documentation, a quality bar for reconciliations, essentially anything that revolves around data input. A lot of the data input should be automated if possible. So it's always worthwhile reviewing these data inputs and automations regularly to make sure that they're sound. And audit your bookkeeping for a month. Identify if there are recurring errors and create specific rules to stop them. So train your bookkeeper or outside provider, review weekly, not monthly. Number four is to close to materiality, not perfection. I know I made this mistake early in my career, particularly when I was moving from audit to financial operations. Finance leaders can lose many days trying to fix tiny variances that ultimately don't change the story or the outcome. So if you're polishing 10-pound differences, you're not acting like a leader, you're acting like a bookkeeper with perfection problems. So you can waste 3 hours, a couple of days, depending on how deep this perfection problem goes. So really set a materiality threshold. So anything, say, for example, that's under 1% of the revenue doesn't really delay the close. So agree a threshold with your founder, add it to the checklist, and when you hit the threshold, move on. Number five is separate the close from commentary. So when you're trying to analyze while closing, it really does slow everything down. You're switching between task and context and end up with neither being finished quite quickly. So you want to close the numbers first and analyze after. This creates two clear phases of work and prevents distraction, especially if you potentially have a team doing the doing and you're doing the analyzing. They'll work much faster if you're not constantly interrupting them with questions from day one. So set a firm deadline for the close, and then only once the numbers are locked in do you move to commentary, insights, and analysis. Number six is to lock down version control. This is not just within finance, but across the entire business. The fastest way to ruin a month end is multiple versions of the truth, whether that's KPIs or revenue or even P&Ls floating around the business. So it just leads to rework, confusion, and errors. You can lose 1 to 2 days of correcting issues or trying to explain why the commercial team has one version and why you have another version, and doing this constant mapping or reconciliation. You just want one version, one master file, one owner, no local copies, and no side edits. So just make sure that you have that one version of the truth. And so it just makes everything so much easier. Number seven is to take revenue recognition seriously. Revenue is usually the biggest delay for startup finance team when no one knows the rules. You can spend time debating what should be deferred, what should be recognized now. So make sure that you have a revenue recognition policy once and use it every month, and make sure the entire business understands this revenue recognition policy. It's very important that you do that pre a fundraise anyway. The investors will want to understand it. I had a recent Series A discussion with potential lead investor, and revenue recognition was a big topic. So make sure it's very clear across the business. This will just make your life easier during month end. So build a one-page policy that covers off timing, cutoff, refund treatments, credit notes, accruals, deferrals. Review it quarterly if the model evolves. I would say get AI to write the first draft and then you can edit it. It's much faster and easier than starting with an empty page, and then discuss it with the leadership team, gets it sign off, and then everyone implements. Number 8 is to stop waiting for suppliers. This isn't a common problem, but just make sure your bookkeeper or finance manager is not doing this. But month end can stall because people are waiting for invoices that just never arrive on time. So if an invoice is not in, accrue it. Leaders do not chase suppliers. They build a clean process and move on. So create a rolling accrual schedule, estimate based on past months or contract terms, and adjust the following month if needed. So this is absolutely what your finance manager or controller should be doing. They shouldn't be waiting around. You should not be waiting around for people and delay month end because of it. It either needs a lot of communication at month end to make sure people deliver when you expect them to deliver, or you accrue and move on. Number 9 is hand off the wrong task. So you can't lead a finance function if you're coding expenses and chasing receipts. So these tasks take up a lot of your time and focus and prevent you from doing strategic work. So make sure you delegate operational work to the bookkeeper or junior finance support. Your time should be spent on judgment and analysis. And if you're still doing that operational work, take a video of how you do it. Get AI to turn that into a document and hand it over to someone else. Number 10 is create a month-end debrief ritual. So this might sound a bit weird, but particularly if you're finding that month-end is taking longer than it should, or if you're quite new into the role, it might be worthwhile implementing this. Month-end stays slow when nobody reviews it and looks at why it's slow. So this can waste a lot of time during your month end. So run a 15-minute debrief after month end, identify, say, the 3 biggest blockers and commit to fixing one. And then add that debrief to your calendar, say on day 4, and just keep it running, a log of improvements and action 1 before the next close. And if you are constantly doing that iteration, in 6 or 12 months' time, you're going to be streets ahead of where you are today. So month end should not interrupt your leadership responsibilities. You should be implementing a really good, slick, well-oiled machine, and that is your responsibility. It's not your team's responsibility, it's your responsibility, and you need to make sure that happens. So you're building a repeatable structure and you're focusing your time where it matters. So cleaning up the process is one of the quickest ways to show that you're ready for a CFO role. Again, that's why I did a short course on it, because it's so important. If you want to become a confident strategic leader in the startup within the next 12 months, I've got 3 steps for you. The first one is to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I do a post every single Thursday that you can implement into your role. Number 2 is take a look at my book, Financial Leadership Fundamentals, so you can get clear on what's expected of you and how you should show up as a leader. At the end of every single chapter, there's a list of actions that you can implement straight away. And the final one is to check out our Financial Leadership Fundamentals course, where you can really fast track your growth with proper structure, support, because we have Q&A sessions every single month, and strategy that works in real world. It's not very theoretical. So thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Cheers.